So welcome to this class on wireless networking. Lecture. Wireless and mobile networking. The handouts are just coming and they are on their way. So you don't have to take any notes, hopefully. So today in this first lecture, we will talk about 4 things. Goals of this course, how we are going to grade, what are we going to teach, and what times. All that's a tentative schedule, right? But before we get into that, there are 2 words in the title of the course, mobile and wireless. So I noticed here that out of the class of 12 or 13 here, 50% have taken the previous class 473 with me just last semester. So you know that difference. But many of you who did not take 473 last semester or 473 with me, so anyway, if you did not take 473, maybe you are not aware of this. So I'm just going to explain that. So wireless is obviously the things that don't have a wire, and mobile are things that move. And generally, if you have wireless, it's easier to move, but that is not necessary. That's the key. Is that you could be mobile while wired. For example, I could be connected to a wired network here, and then I could take it to my office, connect there, and then can take it to my home, connect there. I'm mobile, but wired. So we will talk about both in this course. All right, we will talk about wireless and mobility. The difference is that when we talk about wireless, it is mostly what we call the second layer of ISO, OSI model, which is the data link layer. So the wireless issues are mostly the data link layer issues, whereas when we talk about mobility, it has nothing to do with the data link because it has nothing to do with the wire or wireless. It is mostly the layer 3 issues, which is the IP layer issues. So mobile IP, for example, has to do with mobility. So we will talk about, when we talk about mobility, then we talk about routing and addressing and things like that. Okay? But most of the course is on wireless, and during that we will talk mostly about the second layer. And please feel free to interrupt me anytime during this lecture or even later on if something is not clear to you or if you have a question. So this is a comprehensive course on wireless and mobile networking. And there is a lot that has happened in wireless. Actually, it turns out that even though this course is a part of networking, just wireless part, but the wireless part itself is so big that we cannot cover everything in wireless in one course. So we will have to cover many areas, and we will also cover physical layer, which is the wireless, generally called wireless communication, but that will be only introductory. So in many universities where they have many courses on wireless, first course on, or maybe one course on wireless would be wireless communications. Communication, the word communication instead of networking is different because communication means we deal more on the electrical engineering issues than on the computer science issues. Okay? So wireless communication course is not here. We don't offer a wireless communication course at WashU, and therefore I will make that up by first 3 lectures being on actually the next, maybe not next 3, but 3 lectures on physical layer. All right. So that is where we learn the basics of how the wireless is different from wired networks before we get into the data link layer. And then the emphasis is on the higher layers 2, 3, and 4, and 7. One of the things that is kind of typical of when I teach is that I try to combine what is happening in the industry with what is happening in the universities. I am from the industry, by the way. I spent 20 years in the industry myself before I became a professor. So that way, I want to make sure that if you get out of here and go to the industry and you say, I have taken a course in wireless, you appear knowledgeable about the latest things that are happening. Okay, because this is what happens. What happens in the outside gets into the book about 3 years or 2 or 3 years later. And the books take 2 or 3 years to publish anyway. So if you find the latest 2009 book, it has stuff which came in 2006 or 7. And it's out of date by now because, a lot of things have happened in the last 2-3 years. So we will try to cover that topic as well, and the near future research as well, right? And then the emphasis is very different. If you talk about research, a lot of research in wireless is being done and being funded by military. And so the research topics in the universities, wireless research topics, tend to be more defense needs, as opposed to the outside world needs, which are very different. Okay? And so we need to cover both. And finally, this is a graduate course and not an undergrad course. So the key difference is in the graduate course, we expect you to be a little bit more on yourself. And so we just don't follow line by line a book. For example, some of you who took 473 with me, we followed chapter by chapter, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here there is no textbook. All right? So there is no chapter by chapter to follow. We will be reading a lot of stuff from different places. And also we will be writing. That's also a second difference, is that each one of you will write a survey paper, and we will come and we'll discuss that a little bit more, and then survey paper will be reviewed, and then it will put on my website. And that will be a permanent record of what you have done in this course in some sense, because I have seen people writing to me about something that my students wrote 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And this is a valuable piece of information that you produced and you will be proud of later on. So the grading. 30% for the first 2 exams. There will be 2 midterm exams, and we will take just one of them. And so that is 30%. The final exam, there is just one, and that is 30%. Class participation is 5%. Homeworks are 15%, and the project, which is a survey paper, is 20%. So total 100%. And that way. So the midterms, there are 2 of them, and the reason there are 2 of them, in case you are not able to make the first one because you were not in town, because you had some problem coming in and all that, you are sick. So we give a second chance to you for that reason, but we give the second chance to everybody else, even those who came in. And there is no third chance, by the way. So if you don't make it for one of the 2 exams, then there is no makeup. All right? I will tell you the dates of the exams today, and please mark it on your calendar and make sure that you are present at least one of the 2. Those dates will not change. Actually, I will give the exam dates for all 3 exams, and those dates will not change. So in terms of the books, the material that I am teaching is coming from many, many books, and we will be updating this list as we go along even more. But here is a list of the texts that I used last time. And I put them all at Olin Library to our reserve. So these books are available at our library. You can go to the library and get the books out for 2 hours and then somebody else gets it, and so on and so forth. There might be other copies available at other libraries for loan. So there are books for each part of the course, and there are many parts, as we will discuss later on. Okay, so these are just the textbooks, and there might be some other papers and websites to go along with it. All right, so enough about the books. You see, there are so many books, and not a single book covers all the material. Basically, what happens is the wireless networks, to begin with, are divided into 2 communities, as we call them. Actually, first of all, there is wireless communications and wireless networking. So if you find a book on wireless communication, it talks nothing about networking. Find a book on wireless networking, it talks nothing about communication, but you can't do one without the other. Right? So you need two books. And then in wireless networking, there are two communities. One is what we call the data community, people who work for, who use Wi-Fi or design Wi-Fi kind of things, data community. And then the cellular community, the telephone company. And it turns out the two are merging together now. So you cannot just teach a course. There used to be a time when we just started a course on wireless data networking and did nothing about the cellular networking that was of no interest to anybody. But today the times have changed. You cannot have a cellular network without data, and you cannot have a data network without cellular being covered in it. I mean, most of you do your data networking today with iPhones and things like that. So if you don't know cellular, then how can you cover that, right? So we have to cover both in this course, and this is the only course we offer in wireless networking. So right there are books that you need. We need to get the books from what we call wireless telecommunications and then wireless networking. Then there is issue of security and sensor networks and so on and so forth. So you saw all those things basically here. We have ad hoc networks, security, cellular networks, sensor networks, WiMAX, cellular networks, physical layer, and so on and so forth. So there are plenty of areas, and none of the books cover all. There's not a single book that covers all these areas, and that's why it is a graduate course. All right. So this course requires 473 as a prerequisite. And actually every other networking course at WashU requires 473 as a prerequisite. So here's the list of courses. Network security course, protocols for computer networks 573, advanced topics in networking, which is actually this one 574, multimedia computing and networking 578, research seminar networking 777. All of these require 473 as a background, because that is the fundamental course. If you have not taken 473, or you have not taken something equivalent to it at some other place. So 473 is the first course in networking, and we need that as a background for this course. All right? So what is it that we cover in 473? A lot more than what is written in this slide, but some of that is very required for this course is we need you to understand the 7 layers of the OSI model. If you don't understand when I say second layer or third layer, then obviously you haven't taken the first course in networking. Because if you take a first course in networking anywhere, first thing they teach is 7 layers, right? If you haven't done that, then you have to take that course first. Well, there are some other things that we teach, but I would not really rely upon that, and we will recover that here again. So things like Nyquist and Shannon theorems, coding, Manchester, this is the physical layer stuff. And previously when I taught networking courses, I taught physical layers as part of it, but last year when we taught, we followed a book, and the book did not have that much about the physical layer, so we have to escape a lot on the physical layer part. And so we will cover that here. Transmission media such as UTP, Cat5, microwave, and radio. Again, some books don't do a very good job of it because they are too much networking oriented and not really worrying about the media. Again, this might be something that we may have to cover here. Data communications, asynchronous, synchronous, baud, bit, hertz. Actually, it turns out that all of this is required, but was not in the 473 book last time. So some of it, actually, last 3 items were in the book, but the first 3, 4 were not. So we may have to redo all of that here. Okay. So generally, the 473 courses that we taught before had, and I taught here, for example, in 2005, and I haven't taught since then. So when I covered in 2005, we had all of this part of 473. But now much of it is not, because the book has changed, and the book that we found for 473 covered most of the material except the physical layer. Anyway, so we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about framing, bit stuffing, byte stuffing, And then this is what something you should probably know is on-off window flow control, parity, checksum, cyclic redundancy check. We covered all of that in our previous course. Error recovery, LANs, addressing, LAN wiring, all of this was covered. Routing distance vectors, and the network layer when we say connection versus connection oriented, connectionless versus connection oriented. And I don't know, maybe you can correct me. People who took 473, and I see 6 of them here, we must have mentioned 10 base 5, 10 base 2, 10 base 3, 100 base. This was the notation for IEEE standards. And then rest of it I remember we covered for sure. What is a hub, what is a bridge, what is a router, what is a switch. So anyway, so the key is that you should have taken one course in networking. If you have taken one course in networking, most of the other things probably will follow through. But if you have not taken any course in networking, then it will be very difficult. So what is the difference about the wireless? First of all, since you're not tied to a wall or any infrastructure, you might have a computer-to-computer networking, which we call ad hoc networking. So for example, this computer could be talking to that computer without having a base station or anything else. And so most computers nowadays have this facility that they can talk to each other. That is ad hoc. Second thing is that the wireless has a lot more errors than wired networks. And so many of the things that work okay on the wired networks, particularly when we come to TCP, we'll notice that they don't work well on the wired networks because there are just too many errors. On the wired networks, we talk about the error rate of 10 raised to minus 6 to 10 raised to minus 12. On the fiber, it is 10 raised to minus 12. On a bad wire, it might be 10 raised to minus 6. But we don't talk anything less than that bit error rate on the wired networks. In wireless networks, if we get 10 raised to minus 3 to 10 raised to minus 4, 5, that is very good. Okay, 10 raised to 5 is good, minus 5. So the thing is, there is a big difference in the error rates, significant difference between the error rates of wired and wireless networks. And that differentiates the traffic management as to how we manage the traffic. On the wired networks, most of the losses are because of the congestion, because there is more traffic than you can carry. On the wireless networks, most of the losses are because of the errors. Okay, so even if there is not, congestion, obviously loss can be there and will be there, but even without congestion, there is a loss. Third thing is frequent disconnection. So the signal quality varies, and you may get connected and disconnected much more often, and so we have to worry about resource management. And then quality of service issues again come in, just like for wired networks. They are much easier to handle on wired network because there's plenty of capacity. Most of us have gigabit Ethernet today, and then so handling voice and video is not a big problem on the wired networks, but on the wireless, we are stuck still with 1 or 2 megabits, 5 megabits. Even when we say 54 megabits, actually you really don't get 54 megabits on the wireless, you get 10 or 20. So the quality of service becomes an issue. And fourth, wireless devices are mostly battery operated, and therefore power becomes an issue. You don't want to spend too much energy. You want the devices to sleep. So actually your cell phone, for example, it can carry the battery. The battery is good for 1 week, sometimes or for a few days. But few years ago, 20 years ago, when we first got the cell phone, we had to charge it every 3-4 hours with this big battery. Why? Because the protocols were not good. The batteries have not changed in 10-15 years. They have changed a little bit. But what has changed is the protocol. The new protocol allows the cell phones to sleep. Your cell phone is mostly sleeping, actually. Even though it looks like on, but it is off. Most of it is off. Only it wakes up every few milliseconds and goes to the tower and says, do you have anything for me? No, it goes back to sleep. Then there is something, it comes back up, it wakes up instantly, and then it feels like instantly to you, but it has slept most of the time. Alright, so we will have to talk about that in this course. Time synchronization, basically the same issue, because you are sleeping, you may forget the time. And broadcast, and since everybody can listen to your signal, security is a big issue. On the wired networks, if you're connected to wired networks and you send your password, nobody notices it, nobody can see it. Not at least the people who are not managing the network. People who are managing the network can see it, by the way, even your wired traffic. But in the wireless world, if you send a password or anything in the air, I can see it, being in the same room. Unless you encrypt it. So there are ways of securing your network, and we'll talk about that. So that is wireless part. Any question about wireless so far? Is it going in the right direction or making sense? All right, then I will move on to mobile networking. So what is the issue of mobility? Well, the mobility has to do with your changing the location. Every time you change the location, you get a new IP address. And your old connections go away because all the connections are based upon the IP address. When you make a connection to any node, whether it is Google or something, anything like that, it's not connected to Google name, it is connected to one particular IP address that was told to you belonged to Google, right? And when you move, your address changes, so that connection is no longer good. Right? And in fact, the other side address may also change. When you go from here to home, the Google address may not change, but if you go from here to California, the Google address may be different. If you go from here to China, the Google address is certainly different. So even though it is same www.google.com, the address changes depending upon the location. Right? And when the address changes, the previous connection is no good. Addressing is an issue as to how do you keep the addressing or how do you do that, and handoff is another issue, is that as you move, say for example you are driving, you are connected to one cell tower, and then a mile later you are connected to another cell tower, so they have to hand off. And on the cell phone they have perfected the technique of handoff so that you don't really notice it, your call continues uninterrupted. On the data networks they are still learning. Most often your call is disconnected. If you are transferring a file and you go from one building to another building, the call can get disconnected. Your connection can get disconnected. Okay? So we have to talk about handoff issues. So those are the mobility issues. Those are the layer 3 issues, right? They have nothing to do with wireless as such. Okay? Any question about any of these two? All right, so we are going to cover many topics, and here is a tentative list. Today is the course overview. Next class is on the issues and trends. Then we have actually 2 or 3 classes on physical layers. So this is a tentative schedule. That means it can change, and everything can change depending upon how much interaction we have. If we have a lot of interaction, things may take longer to finish, and we will just don't have to basically. So you don't expect that if you come on 217, we will be talking about wireless personal area network part 1. We might be talking about either part 2 or maybe talking about part 2 of that man here. Depends how fast and how far we get to. Anyway, but this is a rough idea. Issues and trends. Then we go to the physical layer. Then we talk about LAN, the local area networks. And you are all familiar with local area networks, Wi-Fi. That is the most common wireless networks most of us have used. So Wi-Fi is the local area network. It just stays in a building. But we need to get out of the building, and that is the metropolitan area network. So how do you connect when you are outside the building? And then we get back into personal area network. Personal area network is within 1 to 10 meters of you, and that is generally the Bluetooth. Most of you use Bluetooth today. How does it work? How is it different from Wi-Fi? We talk about that in the PAN. So this is LAN, MAN, and PAN. We continue with PAN, and then we get into cellular networks. And cellular networks, they are numbered by their generations. So first generation, second generation, third generation, and so on and so forth. We'll talk about 1G, 2G, 3G, 2.5G, and some of you have 3G services now, right? So we'll talk about all those Gs, what they mean. Then we talk about 4G and IP multimedia subsystems, femtocells, and then some more recent advances in cellular networks. Cellular networks are changing very fast because that is where there's a lot of development right now. So we'll talk about that, and then we get into mobility. In the mobility, we'll talk about mobile IP, IPv4, mobile IPv6, and the new work that is going on in IEEE on media independent handover. Then we talk about TCP over wireless. We talk about wireless ad hoc networking, mesh networking, sensor networking, and RFID. Now, ad hoc, mesh, and sensor, those three are the ones where there is a lot of research going on right now. Right? So as I said before, there is research in the universities and there is the industry. So there's a lot more research in these three areas than the other areas we talked about. Okay? So we are covering these, for that reason. And then RFID is another method of wireless, and RFID, most of you already know, you have used it, is those things when you take out from the store anything and they have an RFID into it, it buzzes, right? So we'll talk about that wireless technology as well. So the final exam. Final exam is on May 3rd. Now this is before the reading period, before all the exams. So the last class of the course is for the exam, reserved for the exam, and we will not change that date. Similarly, the second exam is on March 29th, and the first exam is on February 22nd. And I purposely kept the first exam kind of early, because so that you can, after the first exam, many people feel unhappy that, okay, well, I didn't do well or whatever it is. You have time to withdraw from the course without much penalty. Otherwise, you will be stuck with that grade or whatever it is. So that's a good checkpoint. Okay? Please mark those dates. If you have any problem with those dates already known, basically, I don't know if we can do anything. If you have problems with both the dates, then we'll have to worry about that, okay? And maybe we'll have to redo the whole schedule. But if you don't have a problem, don't worry. Then I would assume that is the case, that nobody has a problem with those dates. But those 3 dates are fixed. Everything else is variable. Everything else is tentative. Write the project. So a survey paper on a topic of your choice, although it says your choice, the next line says a list of topics will be provided. So really you have to choose among the topics that I provide. Okay? Basically, what I do is I try to find out what is the latest in the wireless network today, for which there is very little literature available. Very little, people are really hungry for, let me put it this way. Right? And those are the topics that we want to write on. There is no point in writing on something for which there is a book. You can't do a better job than that. So we write survey paper on topics which are really recent. And after having done it many times, and this is the third offering of this course, I came to the conclusion that the best way to do it is to prepare the list of topics myself and then give it to the class to select, okay, I want topic number 1, I want to work on topic number 3, and then we'll have to resolve the collisions. Okay? And we will go through step by step on that. So there will be literature search period, there will be reading period, there will be writing period, and so on. And so once we start the project, we will be monitoring it, step by phase. So everybody will be along the way. It's not just you sit down on one night and then write the whole thing. Okay? these are different technologies, standards, and products and data links. Those are examples of the project topics. For example, ultra-wideband, smart antennas. However, this list is not really the list. You will get a list closer to the date of selection. So this is just an example here. We have already written papers on most of these by now. So this list is now old, but some of this, there might have been something new in some area, and then we might select that. Okay, but this is basically organized so that people could think about some data links, what is new in the data links, what is new in the wireless products, what is new in the standards, what is new in technologies, and so on. And it continues. The list continues on the network layer, transport layer, applications, security, and management. All right, and here are the dates for the project. By 2/17, we would have selected the topic. Then 2 weeks after that, the references will be due, which means you would have done the literature search during that period. 2 weeks after that, the outline will be due. Outline is mostly an outline of your paper, which is more like a table of contents. First draft will be due 2 weeks after that, or even this is more like 3 weeks. And then we will review the peer review, basically, so everyone will review 3 other papers. So you get 3 reviews of your paper. So that will be done in 1 week. Then you will have to go back and change your paper according to the reviews, and the final paper will be due on 19th. Okay? And then you will be graded on each of these steps. I mean, not on topic selection, but when the references are due, you will submit the references, and you will be graded on that. Outline, you will be graded on that, and so on and so forth. Obviously, most of the marks, a high percentage of marks will be on the final report, but you cannot just skip those steps. Any question about the projects? By the way, we call it project and not a survey because some people like to do some hardware thing or something which they want to build or something like that. And so that is allowed, although you will have to really have resources. We don't have resources to, make you do. So, I mean, we call it project. But if you have some idea that you want to build something, which is related to wireless or related to this course, related to cellular, I don't know, maybe iPhone, then we can think about that too. All right. So the project has to be nothing older than 3 to 5 years. So generally not in the books. Comprehensive survey. So we really like you to not just stay on the technical papers, but also know about the industry standards and products. And they will all be published, and some of the better ones can be submitted to magazines. So several of the papers actually that people wrote just for the class have ended up in books and magazines because somebody noticed the paper and they said, we want to publish this in a book chapter. And so or if you want to publish it, some students wanted to publish it, they just took it over and then said, okay, we want to publish it. So you can publish it there too, but they will all be published on my website. And as a result, because they are published on the website, we don't want to have any copyright violations. And copyright means that you cannot use anybody's text. You cannot just borrow a chapter, borrow a paragraph from any other place and say, okay, well, here, you just take this paragraph from this page and this paragraph from that paper. That will not work. You have to write the whole thing in your own words. So you read something, you get the idea, and then you write in your own words. Okay? Second thing is, you cannot borrow a figure. So you cannot just cut and paste something from a website and put it in our website or in your paper, or you take something from a book or a journal or an article. So there are 2 ways to get over that issue. One is that you can get the permission from them. So you can write to them and you say, well, I want to use this in our paper. Can we use it? And paper will be published on this website. Can we use it? That is one choice. And most of the people will grant you the permission. All right? However, it's much easier much faster to just go to the PowerPoint and redraw the figure. As long as it is your drawing, even though it is the same idea, so they have two blocks, one from here and there is an arrow going between that, and you draw the same two blocks and arrow going between them, but the size is different, it's your figure. There is no copyright violation. And if you made a circle instead of a square, that clearly says that this was not a copy. Copyright means you cannot just take your copier and copy it. That is a copyright violation. But if you make the same figure yourself, that is your figure. That is much faster than getting permissions, unless it is a picture of something. So photographs are difficult to make yourself. So for that you end up taking permissions. All right. Cannot copy any part of the text or figures unmodified. Start quotes. Okay, if you quote somebody, then you just put under the quotes and you say, well, Cisco says this. That's different, right? Then putting it on your own words. Any unmodified figures need permission. Any infringement will result in forfeiture of grades even after graduation. So one paper was on our website for almost a year, and then somebody complained to me that this paper is an exact copy of my chapter, book chapter. Such a big violation. Obviously, I had to not only remove it, but also to punish the student who did that. So please, don't do any copying. All right, so I am in 523, Mondays and Wednesdays, 11 to 12. Suvarthi Pal here is my teaching assistant. He is in 509, and he is available on Thursdays and Sundays. I made him take those hours basically so that those are the hours, because nobody really worries about this course on Mondays and Wednesdays anyway. They worry about it on Sunday night when there is a homework. The homeworks are due on Monday morning. Right? So he has put the hours at Sunday at 5 o'clock, Sunday 5 p.m. in case you still have a question about the lecture that was given on Wednesday. So that is the thing. And while we are on the topic, I just want to re-emphasize again that I will give homework every class. And the reason I have to give you homework every class is so that I make sure that you have read what we are doing, because the things build up one on the other. If I don't give you homework, you don't read, and then you get behind, and I'll be talking about something that you don't understand because you didn't review the previous stuff. So for that reason, I don't love homework, but I have to give homeworks, okay? And all the homeworks will be due on Monday. So if I give a homework on Monday, it will be due on Monday. If I give you on Wednesday, it will be due on Monday. So all the homeworks are due on Monday. All right? So some more questions. How will you grade? We use a curve. So basically, I cannot say that if you got 90%, you will get an A. Basically, generally, on the average, 50% of the students will get an A, 50% will not get an A. All right? The grading is not bad, but you have to be in the top half of the class to get the A. So right now there are 13, 3 plus 3 is 6. Yeah, 13 students. So the top 6 or 7 will get A, and the rest will not get an A. All right. So you really have to do, basically we cannot fix a point and say, well, 75% and above is an A, because if if the exams are very easy, for example, everybody will have 90%, and then not everybody can get an A, right? So, and hopefully that will not happen, by the way. We generally try to have, and we show the curves, and some of you who have taken the course have seen these curves before. We show you from beginning to end where people are. And in every class, every exam, we will tell you where your position is right now, so you can make it up. All homeworks are due on the following Monday, unless specified otherwise. Any late submission, if allowed, will always have a penalty. So if you have a reason for not being able to do it on Monday, yes, and we might allow it, we may not allow it, because the thing is, if we discuss the answer next Monday, then there is no point in your submitting the solution to us after we have given the answer to everybody else. Right? If we have not discussed the solution, then we can allow you to submit a late submission, but then there is a penalty depending upon the lateness. So there is always a penalty for whatever difficulty you have. Exams consist of numerical as well as multiple choice questions. And so 10 to 15% of the exam actually, I'm not fixed on the percentage, but some part of the exam could be even multiple choice questions are true or false. If it is multiple choice questions, then there is a negative grading. Basically, you get +1 for the correct answer and -1 upon n minus 1 for the incorrect answer, where n is the number of choices. So if n is equal to 2, then you get a -1 for incorrect and +1 for correct. If it is true or false, there are two choices. If you randomly mark it, 50% chance of you getting it right, and on the average, you will get 50% +1 and 50% -1, your average will be 0. So you see why we give a negative marking is so that if you randomly do it, you get a 0. And so you have to mark true or false correctly only if you're more than 50% sure. If you're not sure, leave it alone. You get a 0 anyway, that way too. So that is the marking thing. If we have three choices, sometimes I haven't really used three choices for a long time, but say you have three choices A, B, C, then correct answer gets +1, incorrect answer gets -half. And again, this is statistically calculated so that if you randomly do it, you get a 0. All right, and we have a computerized grading system. We don't put anything into it other than what we told you already, and we will explain all that. We basically disclose all that in your final grade sheet. And so we don't have any special consideration for anybody, including graduate university students. You cannot say, well, I need this grade, particular grade for getting out of this university. Well, you have to work during the semester, not at the end. So that brings us to the end of this lecture today. And so the summary is, there is no textbook, so there will be a lot of reading on your own, and writing is obviously there because of the project. And my goal is to prepare a career in wireless networking. So you got a job in wireless networking, and so and by the way, there are lots of jobs in wireless networking. I get lots of emails from people looking for people in wireless because that's the field which is growing a lot. Okay. In general, there is, and that is the next lecture, by the way, which I'm going to give just after this. So there's a lot of, and that's what my goal is, so that if you get out from here and there's a wireless job, you should be able to take it and be able to handle it. So get ready to work hard. Any question about the course? There has not been a single question, and that is negative. You know why? Because there's a 5 points for class participation. I didn't say actually in the beginning what the class participation is. So let me tell you what class participation is. One of the points will be reserved for grading the course. At the end of we want to make sure that everybody, evaluates the course. It doesn't matter whether you evaluate positive or negative, but if you don't evaluate, you get a 0 on that point. 4 points are for the other class participation issues. So some of them are for being present. If I find that there are not enough people in the class, I might take an attendance, and if you're not there, you will be marked, and that will subtract from your class participation point. There are some marks for answering questions. If I ask a question from something related to the previous class that you are supposed to know, and if you answer it right, if you don't answer it, you get a negative. If you answer it right, you get a positive. So that is another thing. And there are some points for asking the questions. So if you ask questions, I notice that, yeah, this person is getting it, and we give you a point for that too. All right? If you never ask any question throughout the class, and I know some people, particularly those coming from abroad, they are kind of afraid of their English, and they don't ask questions, they don't get class participation point. All right? So please, ask questions. When you go out in the real world, I'm telling you, if you go to a company to work for a company, if you never spoke, you will never get any promotion. All right? And so you could be very smart, but if there is no output, nobody knows. All right? All the performance is measured by input and output, not by the insights. So please make sure that you speak. All right? And I'm not measuring here your English or anything like that, so don't worry if it is not correct or thing like that. And there is no such thing as a dumb question. because this is a class, and if you already knew it, you won't be in the class. So please feel free to ask the questions, and even if it looks like everybody else might know it and you are the only one who doesn't know it, maybe everybody else will benefit from it by your asking it. All right? So I would like to see a lot more activity from your side. All right? Any question now after having explained these 4 points? No questions still. All right. I will hope that this is all trivial or understood. So there is a homework. Just like I said, every class there is a homework. So for today there is a homework. And this homework actually is just to make sure that you understand the research techniques. And so we want you to do a search. We want you to search web pages, books, and journal articles on one of the following 3 topics. So there are 13 students. You can randomly select whatever topic you like: networking trends, wireless networking trends, mobile networking trends, and we give you some sources where you should search, and then ignore all entries dated 2005 or before. So 5 years is the max you want to go back. I don't want to know about networking trends in 2004, for example. Who cares, right? When we're talking about the trends, we want to know actually 2009 more than 2008, more than 2007, more than 2000, and so on and so forth, right? So this is a search on networking trends. Right? And so ignore all entries before 2005 or before. Also ignore all entries that do not indicate trends in the title. Trends means, so if you go and do a Google search, it will come up with 10 books because the word trend appeared on chapter 13, line 14 of that book. And every book has the word trend in it, by the way. If you don't have the trend in the book, I mean, why would you write a book? So the thing is, that's not what they're looking for. Any random hit will look like a trend book. If this book is on trends, if there is chapter in the book on the trends, then obviously that book qualifies. So we are looking for some major articles, major papers, major things, not just a random place where the word trend appears. So just doing a simple Google search will not satisfy this. You understand? And so one quick way to filter out most of these things is if the word trend doesn't appear in the title, obviously, something similar to trend. Something similar to trend doesn't appear in the title. It doesn't have to be exactly the word TREND. So this is where you have to do some manual, brains. You have to apply some brains to the search and not just automated Google search. Okay? So ignore all the entries and list others in the following format up to 5 each. So I need 5 entries. Actually, I should not say 5 up to 5 each, 5 each. Basically 5 each, because you get 15 points for 3 of these. And so 5 points for 5 entries of books, 5 web pages, and 5 articles. 15 things I need and 15 points. Yeah.
This site's going to be available on the web.
Which one?
URLs are unreadable in this printed slides.
They're not on your books? Slide handout?
They're not readable on this.
Okay. So there are 2 ways. Actually, all the handouts are online, will be online. Right now they're not, but they will be online. And all the URLs, I have tried to make them clickable. And that's why they're not readable. I have a choice of not making them clickable, and then I choose the font and this color. But they're clickable. So you can go to the PDF and click it. You might even get there straight away. All right? And obviously you can read them on the screen when you see it on the PDF. And let me see one handout anyway, just to see as to how bad it is, because otherwise I have a choice of just not worrying about making them clickable. When you embed a hyperlink, that's what happens. Huh? Oh boy, that's really bad. And why would that be? I didn't think it was that bad. All right, I will do something about it then. But for today, you just go to the, I haven't uploaded it. I will upload it to the website. Okay, there's one more thing. I mean, as you noticed, we are recording everything. So all the lectures are recorded, and this lecture is being recorded, both audio and video, and this will all be uploaded. And so you would be able to, I mean, just before the exam, everybody listens to these things. So, you know, you would be able to really listen to the lecture if you need to. However, that is not an excuse for missing the class. All right? As I said, I take attendance. I want to make sure that you come to the class. The real thing is much better than, you know, you're going and listening to the lecture, because you don't have a choice of asking questions if you just listen to the lectures and not come to the class. If I notice that you have been absent most of the time or anything like that, then that is where the class participation points go. All right, so, okay, so all right, so URLs will be not in your handout, but they are on the soft handout. All right, that is taken care of. So for the books, you have to write down the author, title, publisher, and year. For the web pages, you have to write down the title of the web page and the URL and one-line description. Now, this is something people forget. So when you write down the URL, you write down what is this URL about. So at least you have to go to the URL, and you cannot just submit the results like that. And so this is your description of whatever that URL is about. And then 5 papers, and for that you will write down, like just like a paper, author, comma, title, comma, source, which is journal name, volume number, page number, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So you want a total of
15, yeah. And this homework will be worth 15, will be graded as 15 point, and if, let's say, 12 of them are satisfy all the criteria that we have specified, then you get 12 points. Serially number the references and submit electronically to jain@cse.bristol.edu. The subject field should be CSE 574S homework 1. All right, so there are two things here. Most of the homeworks will not be soft copy due. Most of the homeworks will be hard copy due. All right? Soft copies have a problem of getting lost in the mail. Right? But this homework is soft copy. So unless otherwise specified, this homework is soft copy, because we are going to merge all these results into one big list of trends and issues, right? So this is in soft copy, but that is not in generally the case. So whenever we give a homework, unless it's specified, you bring a hard copy, and he takes the hard copy and he grades it himself, and then we know it was there. With the soft copies, we find out only after the homework has been graded that you didn't have a homework, or you didn't submit a homework, or you mailed it, but it never reached me. So just to make sure that it reaches me, you use the correct email and the correct subject field. I have subject filtering. I get, I don't know how many hundreds mails an hour, a day. Without filtering, we cannot handle the email. All right? And so make sure that you put that subject field. Yeah. I'm sorry, what was the question? Can you say it loudly? IEEE database? Yeah, so that is called Explore. You're talking about Explore. And yes, you can use Explore, IEEE Explore. And by the way, all of these are free for WashU. Many of these things are free for WashU, in the sense that if you do it from outside the WashU, then you have to pay for Explore. He will publish of Explore to get the articles. I mean, you probably don't have to download the articles, just need to be able to read the abstract and title, which is free for this homework. But when you do the real paper project, when you do the survey paper, you will have to download these things, and so if you do it from outside, you will have trouble. You have to pay to get the PDF, but for WashU, it is free. So inside the university, you can just download it by clicking on it. But if anybody is from outside here, everybody is, working outside. Anybody working outside, like going, where are you from? Which company? Northrop Grumman, right. So you must basically be aware of that if you come inside and connect any point here inside your computer, it will be free.
The lib proxy, library proxy from outside too.
And there is a library proxy from outside. Okay, so much about the homework number 1. Any question about the homework number 1?
It's due next week.
This is due on Monday. and every homework is due at 1 o'clock, which is our class time. So this should be emailed to me before 1 o'clock on Monday. Before you come to the class, just email it to me. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it doesn't matter, but before Monday. All right, the next issue then is just to make sure that you have 473 background. However, it turns out that the 473 varies so much that some of you may not know this, so I'm not really very strict about this one, but I have given you some questions that you can answer true and false. I will not look at those answers. You are the only one who will look at that answer, so you can truthfully answer true and false on your own, and up to the next slide, and then grade yourself. I will give you the correct answer in a minute. So once you get the correct answer, then you can grade yourself, and if you have a lot more, if your grade is very low, then you have the two choices. Basically, you can choose to really read more about it, and I have seen people do it. In fact, in one of my classes, this is really surprising, but one of my classes, there was a student from outside who had never taken any networking course. And that course required, this was not this course, it was another course that required networking 473 as a background, but he said, no, I will pick it up, don't worry. So he was so confident, he picked it up. And so this is up to you as to how confident you feel or how unconfident you feel, so this will help you decide that. And this is, I will just stay quiet for a few minutes while you are doing this quiz. Okay. Does anybody need more time? Done? Okay. So let's go through the answers. Oh, before I go to the answers, we also gave you a handout, a separate page. Was it stapled or separate? Yeah, separate page. Please fill that out and give it to me, before we leave the class. And let's go through the answers. So the data link refers to the second layer in ISO SI reference model. That's kind of, I already said this in this class, so you should know. Cat5 unshielded twisted cable is better than Cat3. So some of you may not know Cat3 versus Cat5. However, I think we covered in the last class, so 6 of you at least should know that one, but the others may have skipped or not understood. It has to do with the physical layer. Finding path from one node to another in a large network is a transport layer function. So which layer does do the path finding? Anybody? Anybody knows? How do you find the path? Which layer does? Huh? Routing. Which layer does that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Tell me. Those of you who took 473, if you forgot, then I don't know what I will do, man. You cannot forget this fast, otherwise you won't get a job. I said that if you take a course, then I want to make sure you get a job. So nobody remembers which layer does the routing? Yeah, layer 3. Good. All right. Okay, that's not very good so far. It is impossible to send 3,000 bits per second through a wire which has a bandwidth of 1,000 hertz. Now, this is a tough question. Let me tell you why. Because many courses in networking do not talk about the physical layer. As I said, the book that we followed last time did not talk about the physical layer. And if they don't talk about the physical layer, many people don't even discuss hertz bits in the class. And so they don't know. So if you don't know this one, I would forgive you. But we did discuss this in our class in 473. And so those of you who took the 473, can you tell me, is it possible to, well, the answer is already in front of you that this is possible. It says false. So it is possible to send 3,000 bits through 1,000 hertz, but maybe if you know why is it possible, what is the difference between hertz and bits, then raise your hand. Yeah.
Well, then you said that like they're not related at all. So do whatever you want.
Yeah, right. In 473 we said that the hertz and the bits are not related. They are related in the sense that with so many hertz you can get only so many bits, but with 100 hertz you can get 200 bits or you can get 50 bits. So it depends what kind of coding you are using. So the hertz are not changing. Hertz is the spectrum that you use, the frequencies that you use. The spectrum is not changing. Previously we were able to do only 10 megabits or 2 megabits actually in Wi-Fi first version. Second version did 11 megabits. Third version did 54 megabits. Fourth version is doing 100 megabits. The hertz have not changed. The hertz is still 20 megahertz. But the bits are changing because we are becoming smarter how to get more bits out of hertz. And we will discuss this one more time in this course, by the way. Because anything that is physical layer, I am going to redo it in this class. So that is why I am forgiving you on those. Bit stuffing is used so that the characters used for framing do not occur in the data part of the frame. Okay, bit stuffing. So in some protocols, they stuff bits. They add bits. And again, see, the thing is, this we did in 473. Anybody remembers the stuffing at all? Yeah. So we talked about stuffing. The only question I had when I was writing this question was that we talked about byte stuffing in 473 for sure, and I wasn't sure if we talked about bit stuffing or not, but there are protocols that do bit stuffing. And for long delay paths, on-off flow control is better than window flow control. Now this is something that you would forget as soon as you finish the flow control chapter. We did have flow control. We talked about many different flow controls. We talked about window flow control, and we talked about pause, on-off flow control. And the longer the delay bandwidth product, which was in our case alpha in 475, you need bigger window. So that is true. Then Ethernet uses CSMA CD access method. So how many people, well, basically, let me not ask that, but let me see. CSMA CD stands for what?
Carrier sense multiple access.
Yeah, carriers and multiple access. And so CD is the collision detection. And this statement is marked true. But can anybody argue as why it could be false as well? Yeah.
I think a lot of the high-speed, most recent ones are all direct point-to-point. So
Yes. Good point. Good point. So while CSM Ethernet was CSMA CD, today we don't use that at all because even the low speed ones we use switches, and switches means point-to-point. You don't really do any collision with other people because you're just connected to the switch. All right, so CSMA CD. 10 base 2 runs at 2 megabits. This is false. 10 is the speed, 2 is the distance actually. So 200 meters was the maximum distance, and if you didn't know this, I would forgive you again because it's a history now. We don't make 10 base 2 anymore. The packets sent in connection-oriented networks are called datagrams. What is a datagram? Anybody knows what is a datagram? Have you heard before? Yeah? What is a datagram?
It's a single packet. The entire message is in a single packet.
So that is IP packets are called datagrams actually, to be exact, because there are no other datagrams. So IP packets are datagram and IP is not connection oriented. So connection oriented networks don't use datagrams. That is false. A spanning tree is used to find a loop free path in a network. So a spanning tree is used in Ethernet in the local area network. So that is that. So you have the correct answers for all the questions. You can do plus and minus, and you have your own questions. However, your own grade. However, I wouldn't be too much concerned if it was mostly physical layer stuff, because physical layer we are going to cover all over again. Okay? But the higher layers you may want to decide whether you really don't know anything or you really need to just refresh it, and that should be all right. All right? That brings us to 215. So any questions so far?